Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to Breakfast with Sergio. Very happy to be here with you today because I have with me Inez Suen. She's joining us all the way from London, along with artist Gordon Cheung, and it's going to be a great conversation. We're going to talk about the convergence of art and technology. Well, my friends, welcome back. It's always excited to be here with you once again. 300 and something episodes later, we're still at it and really active. And something that I love is that we are now able to connect with so many people, so many artists, curators, and people in the art world from around the world. Today's no exception. I have with me Inez Suen, who she's an international art business consultant and curator. She's also the director of the non-for-profit organization International Chinese Fine Arts Council in Chicago. She's in London right now. We known each other here from the Chicago connection. We actually met in Art Basel, but we both ended up being connected here with Chicago too. So we have run into each other in many places, in many events as well. And we have also been in touch, for quite a while. So we started talking about technology, for the last few weeks and texting back and forth. And that's kind of like this whole thing started. So Inez introduced me to artist Gordon Cheung. Gordon is a London-based artist. He has developed an innovative approach to painting, which blurs the line between virtual and actual reality. So we're going to talk about what that means. And, he has a huge and long, extensive resume, which you can find on his website. And but out of, the highlights, he has been in many exhibitions, many museums around the world. And his work, for example, is in the collection of the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And I think everybody has heard about that museum, right? So a very extensive experience. And I'm super happy to have you both here in the show today. How are you?
Good. We're good. Thank you for having us, and looking forward to our chat.
Gordon, tell us a little bit about, first of all, your interest for technology. And, in your art practice, you're talking about this process, which I've been following on your social media and also on your website, beautiful documentation of that, of the blurring the line between virtual and actual reality. So tell us about how does that look like in your own art practice first.
Sure. So my interest in technology came about from the last century when I was at art school from 94 to 98 at St. Martin's. And back then there was a lot of focus on, abstract painting and the purity of it and so on. And I really wanted to make something about the world because there were all these revolutions I felt that were happening, particularly in technology. And that would be the rise of the internet and available mobile phone technology. So I came from an age in which, mobile phones didn't exist,
right.
Let alone smartphones. Right. So for me, I recognized this as a revolutionary moment, in which I wanted to capture within painting itself. And so what way could I do that but adopt or adapt with technology into the painting itself? And so started to produce this idea of painting without paint, to challenge myself to find substitutes. And what it led me to do was to use ultimately things like maps and stock listings of the Financial Times as a metaphor of these spaces that are like totally globally interconnected, and creating this new landscape, this new world in which we all occupy, where this flow of information, trillions of capital in an instant moving, carving and accumulating, and in those places creating utopias or dystopias. And so to try and find these kind of, in a way, modern mythological spaces and capture that within the language of painting, and to from there build a more complex language to deal with other things, leading up to, I suppose, I'm now going through about 21 years of work, and to what my current work is looking and focused about, which is blockchain technology and the new revolution, the new technological revolution of what this will enable, this decentralized network, of a possible alternative monetary system in reaction to the Occupy movement from the 2008 financial crisis, in which the economic failure by our leaders had led us into this global economic collapse, through which these groups of people sought for an alternative form, that now in 2021 we are now seeing institutions, including banks, just almost panic buying, into this space. And so NFT is an example of what is perhaps a bubble right now, but it's an alternative or a new type of platform through which artists can, occupy and take control of their market or ability to enter the market in a new way. So lots of complex conversations there to be had.
We'll unpack a little bit of some of those things. So let me bring Inez here in the conversation too. So Inez, tell me about also your interest in technology, and also, of course, how did you get involved with working with Gordon and the things that he was doing, the projects that he was, part of, and pretty much your own interest on this whole technological aspects of the art world.
Well, Gordon and I come from very different perspectives on technology. I grew up in technology. My parents are both engineers. Okay. My mom is a computer scientist, and my father has his PhD in civil engineering, but they both worked at Bell Labs. And I've had a computer in my bedroom since I was 8 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So to me, technology was like a third arm kind of,
yeah.
It was just always there, and I never really questioned it. Actually, when I first went to college and started to explore my identity, I rejected technology. I wanted to do everything by hand. I wanted to write people letters on paper. I did everything non-technology based until I entered the work world. I moved to New York after college, and after U of I, actually, and then I moved to New York, and I realized that's what was going to pay the bills, was knowing this technology. So I used everything I already knew, computer skills, Photoshop, all of that stuff, and that's how I started working with artists. Because a lot of artists they weren't taught these tools in school. I came from design school, so I knew how to do presentations, and I knew how to organize. I knew how to plan a project, whereas they didn't teach you guys that in art school. I don't know why, but it's a very important part of getting projects, writing grants, and, managing your business, because every artist is a small business owner.
Exactly. That's right. So how did you start working with Gordon in the projects that he was working on? How did you get interested on that?
Well, when Gordon and I met, I'm an art consultant, and Gordon is an artist. So we started talking about different ways that I could contribute to his career. And one of the things that he came up with was he somehow got all of his artwork stolen by a gallery, museum, or something like that in China.
Physically stolen, or images?
Well, he did a show there about 10 years ago, and couldn't get his work back, and didn't get paid for it. It's a common story, right? We hear about it all the time.
We all have heard, yeah.
And then I said, you know what? I think I can help you. Because I have some friends in China who have, big, powerful legal people there, and then I did. I recommended a lawyer to Gordon. Gordon hired him, and then and then on and on and on and on, and then led to anyway. We can't really talk about it, actually, because I think that's what the contract says. So no details, but anyway, it led to this whole campaign on Protect Your Art.
Yeah. There's actually there was a big media campaign. So
scroll back on Instagram.
So it is easy to actually find the stories there, although we're not meant to. Although they actually violated the agreement, but
we don't like to stoop to where other people are. So anyway, so we started a whole Protect Your Art campaign, and a lot of artists jumped on board to support Gordon in this whole process. It was really kind of heartfelt.
It's a scary thing to think about doing, but with Inez's expertise and connections and understanding of how to retrieve the work, it felt safe to do, because of course a lot of artists would be afraid to actually make them seem like as though they're troublemakers. It's a very strange sort of mentality, because of course you're the victim, in this scenario. So to think that you would get lawyers, and to fight to get your work back, and that you would be afraid of doing that, because you're afraid of how other galleries might see you as a troublemaker, is kind of a very, very absurd situation. But the community, the arts community and the online community were so supportive.
Technology.
Yeah. And it was, it was them that were actually responding and essentially shaming them into seeing that their way has repercussions, and that felt really important. If at the very least my actions could have prevented them from thinking that it would be very easy to do the same thing again to another artist, and make them suffer, as much as they did for 10 years with holding and stealing 2 years worth of my work, it was just an injustice that I couldn't stomach anymore. And Inez, stepped up to help me when I unloaded all of this. The first time that we met, in China, one of our main conversations, oh my God, I've had my work stolen from blah, 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 it's just like, and she took it all on and like going, that's really bad, Gordon, let me help you, and I was like, I never, in a way, I didn't expect to have been victorious, but very much down to Inez here that really helped secure and get my work back so that it can now be shown in LA during this summer for my solo exhibition.
That's exciting. And, I think, those are common stories that one hears that happen, they still happen. And something I think that technology has brought about because of all this is also a sense of more transparency, and I think technology does maybe that's a good point right now to jump into smart stamp art, right? Which is a way in which it can register, maybe you can explain a bit, register the work of art and its provenance and how it moves in the world. Because today, as if you're an artist, your art moves in the world, right? The moment it leaves your studio, it moves in the world, and keeping track of where is it, who has it, ownership, as it exchanges hands over time. I think it's so important for the artists of today. So tell me a little bit about this smart stamp art technology, Inez or Gordon, whoever.
Well, as we were going through this court case, one thing that became very evident is that Gordon's archive. Gordon has tons and tons of artwork throughout his career that needed an archive, and it needed to be digital. It couldn't be on little pieces of paper, stuck under notebooks and things like that. So we went on this immense archiving project and loaded everything up into a database, and then Julie from SmartStamp called us and said, "Oh, I've been following your case online. This is something that we're very interested in because we want to help artists." And I said, "Well, what is it? What is it?" And she said, "Oh, I started this company called SmartStamp, and what they do is they take digital fingerprints of your actual artwork." And they do this by, I'm actually not totally 100% sure of the technology, but it can be done with a smartphone where you take a photo and it scans, I think, a 3D image of that particular part of the painting, and it stores it within a blockchain.
Yeah, it is. So you're basically like recording, like say the back of the canvas. So then it will be impossible to forge. You couldn't forge that to the exact, reality of what you recorded. And then that is, time-stamped and recorded on this decentralized network of computers, which is basically a decentralized ledger system, that is impossible to forge, unless you've got unlimited money to be able to access every computer that this information is stored on. And so it's like the ultimate, certificate of authenticity. It's there's no denying that, the information that is stored, on that sort of network. And of course that has a huge implications, in terms of all of the fakes that are out there, but also helping with potentially legal cases, in the future. about where your work is and who has it in a given moment and so on. So I think it's great. I think it's incredibly empowering.
Right, and I think as you mentioned, the blockchain being like the decentralized, where it's impossible to just take it from one spot because it's in multiple let's say boxes, right, or places within that blockchain, and as it travels and as it moves and as the outer world, again, the outer world moves in the world, I think right now in this world everything leaves a digital footprint, right? Even ourselves, as we move around, this thing is tracking where we're moving, right? So when I go from here to the gallery in a little bit, I'm leaving a footprint, digital footprint of my movement in this earth, and the things that I do, the things that I say. Alexa, what is this? Alexa, what is that? That's all the digital footprint that we're all leaving behind. And I think so important, again, for the art to also have that digital footprint as it moves in the world. And I think, as you mentioned, for the benefit of the artists and so on. And I think, something that also I love about the project that both of you have worked on, and maybe we can touch on that a little bit. It's called the Year of the Axe, right? Which is this huge kind of like wall, type of mural, but it has also augmented reality. And I would love to hear, because right before we started recording, Gordon, you mentioned, the first idea of the project and how Inez kept saying, hey, no, let's also do this, let's also do that. So tell me first a little bit, Gordon, what was the first idea? And then Inez, maybe tell me a little bit of, what are some of the things that you thought about would make it, even an expanded project?
I've eaten at A Wong restaurant before he got his first Michelin star, and we have a mutual friend who was talking to him about, oh, you should show some of Gordon's work, in your restaurant, and then he did sort of call up and or message me. I can't remember if it was on Instagram or WhatsApp, and said, hey, would you be interested in doing something? And I was like, yeah, for sure, and got talking, and like, and he showed me some images of his conservatory, and I thought, there's no walls to really hang anything on. So I was really only thinking I'd be showing maybe a couple of prints or something like that in the restaurant, and that would have been great, And then I told Inez about it, and she'd been to the restaurant as well, and suddenly said, oh, you could do this, you could do that, and just like, and why don't you surround, well, actually, I'll let Inez explain, because she basically, within what must have been about 12 hours, built a presentation of some of the ideas that we were like, bubbling away with, and that we were to present to Andrew that following evening.
So tell us, Inez, what were some of those ideas?
I've always been fascinated in vinyl wraps.
Okay.
Like wrapped buses, wrapped anything, Porsche, whatever, any kind of car wrap. So I saw the conservatory. It was brand new. It was shiny. It was boring. And I said, why don't we wrap it? Because I mean, the first thing you think when you think public artwork or like I thought public artwork. I don't know where your print idea came from, but I thought public artwork, because London is shut down right now. Right. Restaurants can't open, so it has to be public. So I said, and then I immediately went to mural, and then I said, oh, Gordon doesn't do murals.
But it was something that I've always wanted to do, but now it was like suddenly it was possible, because I had the organizational abilities of Inez here, and also the helping with with the positive messaging of the vision, and so it felt doable.
So I said, why don't we wrap it? And then with Gordon, as if you know Gordon's work, it can't just be simple.
Right.
So he goes, oh, we got to add something to it. What about augmented reality? I know these friends in Hong Kong, Meta Objects. Yeah. We'll call them. We'll see what happens. So anyway.
And so this project grew much more from just hanging two prints. And it was really also this synergistic sort of moment as well, because there was all this Asian hate occurring at this point. So the previous most powerful, president of the most powerful nation in the world that was blaming, the virus and literally calling it China virus, right. Perpetuating this hate speech, and we are now facing the consequences and the results, of that, because people are standing up, in the Asian community against it, and highlighting it and saying, hey, this is not right, and although, of course, it's been happening for years, but now, with a new administration, this has become more public. Exactly. And so rather than sort of, really making something that was really overly negative as well, really wanted to, Andrew, myself, and Inez, and everybody pretty much that was on board, wanted to really send out a positive message from the point of view of an Asian artist and an Asian chef, and we wanted to give something back to the community, with a positive message, because what happens with the augmented reality on the mural is that it is about Year of the Ox. Chinese New Year was what it was made for, in order to celebrate, our culture. But also when you put the augmented reality and you look through the phone on your app, in order to see it, you'll see these sort of three-dimensional sort of lion dancers starting to dance around. And of course, a lion dancer is all about warding off evil spirits and wishing goodwill, health, and happiness to everyone. So the evil spirits here is the blame, right. But also the pandemic, and so the wishing health and prosperity is, of course, the two biggest anxieties that we're currently facing as a society, as a world, as well. So it felt like a perfect sort of metaphor to try and find that sort of bridge, if you like, of understanding, that we are not the people to be blamed, for this, but that we wish health and happiness, as would anybody. That during Chinese New Year is all about celebrating family values. It's about coming together, and being together, to support each other. We give Lacey these packets of money, to loved ones. We're spreading, lots of goodwill and happiness, and so to at the very least, highlight that as a background, to this work, but really focus more on the positive messaging, because it's already surrounded by these extraordinary circumstances and perpetuation of a certain unpleasant narrative that we all can witness right now in terms of what those consequences are.
Exactly. Thank you for that sharing. And, something that I love then, when you have this concept, this idea, and then, as you also bring in the technology part of that, and, people carrying their phones and then using it to see the augmented reality piece. And, I feel like our phones have become almost like an extension of our bodies nowadays, right? Because we carry it everywhere. So as you're walking through the street, I assume then you see these wall mural art, which normally you'll see something and there's this kind of a sense of a distance between you and the art. But when you see it in your phone and it becomes something else and it is animated and it feels like it's now you have immediate access to it. It jumps from the object that we see from a distance, the art that you're not supposed to touch, to something that now we carry in our hands, right? And I feel that there's also kind of an immediacy of that, where then your message, as you are bringing it out, the importance of that message of inclusiveness and the love, then all of a sudden we have it in our hands. Well, believe it or not, time flies, right? I wish we could be speaking. It feels like we just started, but we have to start kind of wrapping things up. And I would be remiss if I would not touch the subject of NFTs, because I'm sure a lot of artists are when are you going to talk about NFTs, right? Because you can go into, for example, the Clubhouse app, and every 3 discussions is somebody talking about NFTs, and we've seen it in the news, we've seen it everywhere. Tell me a little bit about, your opinion on the NFT kind of race right now. And where do you see this going?
Do you want to?
Well, NFT is a non-fungible token, right? Mm-hmm. And that's all it is. It's a smart contract. It's a great way to I guess, keep track of your work, like you said, throughout. It's a great way for, I mean, the art world is going to hate it because it democratizes art. But I think it's great for artists. I think it's where the future of the art industry will be. And I think people kind of need to lay off the bad art that's coming out, because bad art is just that. It's an opinion. And
not only that, but also in the contemporary art world, there is going to be bad art as well. So does that mean that therefore the auction houses, the galleries, they're all bad or something?
Yeah, Damien Hirst's NFTs are bad art. I don't think so. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's a matter of opinion.
But I think essentially what it is, NFTs is again yet another form of an amazing certificate of authenticity. You know, it's a platform at the same time with a integrated smart contract in which an artist can earn royalties from resale value. You know, so the fact that right now we've experienced what might have been a manipulated speculative market with what happened to Beeple, because the two people that I believe that were bidding for it were actually connected to NFT companies. So it could be that they were manufacturing a situation in which they could sort of, you know, permanently create a historical moment to set, you know, NFTs as a validated, if you like, market, you know, and so I think right now it's kind of crashing a bit, but again, like with all these social media platforms that we have available to us, you know, for example, before NFTs, you know, before we had social media, we couldn't self-publish. Not so easily, but YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and so on, it allows us to do these things now, you know, and NFTs, I believe, is another form of a platform, you know, that is interfaced with the commercial art world. And that's perhaps where the resistance lays with the traditional art market, and what this might be signaling, and the empowerment or the possibility of empowering artists to be able to actually not need, you know, these gallery systems, you know, and actually take charge of their own art market fate.
Mm-hmm. And especially because, you know, as we're going through all this, you know, the currency in which all this happens, you know, it's a digital currency. Right, so you don't even have the banking as an intermediary anymore in all these type of digital transactions. So I'd say, you know, then it gives all who are involved, and you know, the artists also more control on that, and you know, also a way of, as you mentioned, you know, looking at the future of the artwork, even in the digital world. I don't know if it's as an NFT, you know, the ability to have recurring say, you know, per se, in the percentage of the resale of that asset, which right now artists don't have.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there's none of that anymore. Once it's gone from your studio and somebody purchases it, you're out of luck if that becomes $1 million piece, you know, in the future. But you know, for the first time, having all that, and I think in every, when we look at history, in every type of industry change, you know, those who start to feel that they're losing control, you know, there's always going to be resistance, I believe.
Yes. I mean, history, I guess, will tell us, you know, whether this is a permanent thing. But it feels like as though it's such a that it's a useful new type of platform, you know, for artists to be able to occupy, because there isn't enough galleries to show artists for a start, neither. So it's just like, I remember when I was at St. Martin's, you know, back in the last century, you know, 94 to 98 sort of time, that when I was looking through the galleries, and there wasn't that many compared to now as well, I looked through it and I was like thinking, oh my goodness, there's not one single Chinese name in these galleries at the moment, you know. And then I thought, hang on, all of these are really famous artists as well. It's like, so when you started to work out, you know, that there's only maybe a few spaces, you know, and then the odds are so stacked against you, and you're looking around the year in your art school year, and you're thinking, well, there's at least 200 people in my year, I suppose, and they're all going to graduate. And then there's like how many schools in London? There must be like, let's say 200 in each one of those. So that you're talking about thousands of art students that are going to graduate and become artists.
Mm-hmm.
And there's maybe a handful of like spaces in galleries to represent you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, you need to take control. You know, you need to understand what you have to do in order to make an exhibition. You know, you need to understand what all aspects of what it takes to do that, and to engage with the realities of like what it means to occupy, you know, the world, you know, beyond the art school.
Yeah, and on the other end, this makes anybody a collector.
Absolutely.
You don't have to go through a gallery or you know, be somebody famous or something to collect, or anyone can collect art.
I think this is a really nice way to wrap it up and to you know, to close today's conversation, because we could go and keep talking, and and I know you guys giving us already a lot to think about and a lot of information for our friends here to digest and to start thinking and also following on their own path too. So before we close, I would love if both of you can share what kind of friends find you on social media, where can they connect with you, where can they see the things that you are doing. And before we close, Inez, if you can also tell us what's coming next. You guys have an important exhibition coming to LA, which I would love to hear a little bit about that too. So Gordon, where can we find you on social media, and where can our friends follow you there?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram at Gordon Cheung, and also on Facebook. I have a page there, Gordon Cheung Studios. And then, of course, my website it links to everything, so including my YouTube and Twitter and so on. And that's where a lot of the updates about the LA show will be taking place. And Inez,
where can we follow you, Inez?
I am at Inez Suen on Instagram, Facebook, and website is also Inez Suen. ICFAC is .org. Also, you can find us on Instagram at Chinese Diaspora. Mm-hmm. And also, of course, everything's on the website, all connected.
Right.
And the next show is actually produced, is an ICFAC production, and it's going to present Gordon's solo show in collaboration with Coates and Scary, and we will also have a very robust programming of Stop Asian Hate programming that's going to happen throughout the duration of the show, and it will be in LA and Hollywood mid-July to mid-August, and because of COVID, we're doing socially distanced kind of like timed things. So please just check our website, Instagram, everywhere for more information. There will be tons and tons of information.
Yeah, and I mean, ICFAC is an incredibly important component of this show. You know, the aspect to do with Stop Asian Hate. And ICFAC has actually inspired other groups to form in order to stand in solidarity against Asian hate. So for anybody out there that's interested in that type of activism, or to at least find people for support against this situation, or to help fight against racism in general, I think this is an important organization to be able to go to in order to find that sort of information.
We are worldwide, but found in Chicago.
That's awesome. Well, well, thank you both for being here. Really appreciate you. Thank you for your time. You've been really fabulous. I want to invite all our friends, you know, to of course follow them both as well as the organization too. See what they're doing. Check out the LA show, particularly if you are in LA. And now, because of social media, I'm sure there'll be a lot of resources online, you know, for that exhibition too. And of course, do us a big favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please click share. Thank you both. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.